Hey guys, it's Chris from Fairly Awesome Podcast with your Fairly Awesome WTF movie review.
Oh, what the f***? Is this for real?
This week's movie, in honor of the recent release of the sequel, is Sharknado, a 2013 Sci-Fi Channel original movie that joins the ranks of such masterpieces as Piranhaconda, Sharktopus, and Megapython vs. Gatoroid, and somehow managed to become a cult hit because why not? The movie opens 20 miles off the coast of Mexico where a trawler is shark finning, catching and cutting the fin off sharks for use in cooking while throwing the rest of the shark away as waste. The ship's captain makes a $1 million deal to provide fins to his buyer, confident that a nearby group of sharks, which the captain calls a pod but would actually be called a shiver, will provide an ample supply of fins. When a hurricane blows in, all hell breaks loose as sharks, which had been sucked up into a waterspout inside the hurricane, devour the crew, sometimes whole. The fin buyer attempts to escape to somewhere, but is ultimately, along with everyone else, eaten by sharks. Luckily, the whole thing is never mentioned again, so if you tuned in too late, no worries, you didn't really miss anything. At the Santa Monica Pier on the coast of California, Finley Finn Shepard, get it? The main character's name is Finn, the movie's about sharks, owns a bar and enjoys surfing. After a bit of a surfing montage, a bunch of sharks swim up to the shore and begin attacking and eating beachgoers. Finn and his friend Baz help clear the water and tend to the wounded. Returning to his bar, Finn sees the hurricane roll in and decides to shut down to prepare for the storm. While getting everyone out, a storm surge begins, tossing sharks into the bar and onto the pier. Finn, Baz, Nova, an employee, and George, a barfly, take charge and flee the pier. Concerned about his ex-wife and daughter, Finn heads to Beverly Hills to get them to safety. En route, they encounter lots of flooding. Making for the 405 freeway, they, along with other motorists, are caught in a shark-filled flood on the entrance ramp. Several motorists, including George, are eaten. Eventually, they make it to Finn's ex's house. After a shark eats the ex's boyfriend, everyone escapes just before the house is destroyed by flooding. With his wife and daughter saved, Finn heads to the Van Nuys airport to rescue his son. Obvious next step. On the way to the airport, Finn and company happen upon a school bus full of kids surrounded by sharks. Saving the kids and their teacher, they enjoy a brief respite as the storm abates. Mere moments later, the storm picks back up with a vengeance, ripping the Hollywood sign off the hillside and throwing bits and pieces at the gang. Back on the way to rescue Finn's son, a shark lands on the roof of the car and eats a hole in the roof, eats Finn's baseball bat, and then eats the action end of a shotgun. Oh, and their car gets blown up because there hadn't been any explosions for at least 10 minutes. They rent a Hummer H2 SUT and make it to the airport. Upon arriving, they see 3 massive Sharknados descending on the city. Finn's son Matt, who quickly takes a liking to Nova, determines the best way to stop the sharks and tornadoes is with improvised explosives. They get to the chopper, use the bombs to disperse the Sharknados, and save California. And somewhere in there, Nova gets eaten whole by a shark, and Finn manages to jump inside said shark with a chainsaw, saving not only his daughter, but a completely unhurt Nova. The end? Probably not, because there's a sequel. Does anyone else remember when the Sci-Fi Channel used to not be so terrible? I suppose it's nice of them to give all these up-and-coming directors and actors a chance to make their movies, but damn, Sci-Fi Channel. Damn. So Sharknado, out of all the terrible sea life portmanteau films Sci-Fi has developed, somehow managed to quickly gain a cult following, thanks to Twitter, and become more popular, to the point that a sequel was made that will no doubt involve more sharks, more tornadoes, and more schlock. And a potential third sequel is in the works, in case you were interested. There's long been a genre of movies described as so bad it's good that Sharknado seems to have been filed in. I sometimes wonder if this is kind of like the participation trophy for movies. Like, your movie was pretty crap, but good job anyway. You completed the movie and showed it to more than a dozen people. If you ever looked for a reason to believe the Illuminati is real and influences the choices we make in our lives, Sharknado is a shining example. Sharknado, for all the hype, is horribly scientifically inaccurate, full of terrible one-liners, and contains as much CGI as a Michael Bay film, with about 1/100th the budget. Sharks attack people in less than 6 inches of water, eat people that are physically larger than the shark whole, and can pretty much bite through anything and everything, including metal. Though I suppose with a name like Sharknado, you weren't really expecting too much from the outset. To break it down, Sharknado is about 20% stock footage of sharks, flooding, and hurricanes, 55% CGI sharks, rain, and tornadoes, 15% pantomiming, driving, surfing, and flying a helicopter, and 110% shitty movie. The more I think about it, it might actually be possible to pull an okay film out of Sharknado. If you cut out all the bad parts, the dumb acting, and the terrible effects, you'd probably end up with a not ridiculously terrible 20-minute long film about a father in his quest to reunite with his family in a time of crisis. Don't get me wrong, it would still probably be pretty terrible, just not ridiculously so. And it would have to include the daughter that feels left out of the family, who then ends up being left out of the interrelationship club at the end of the movie. She's the only one that doesn't hook up. Plus, at least it'd only be 20 minutes long instead of the hour and 25 minutes worth of Sharknado you have now. So it's probably best to skip Sharknado, unless you're obligated to watch it to keep up with all your other cool, terrible movie-watching friends. Or looking to write a half-assed movie review to fill in some void in your soul. Oh, and just for fun, here's a list of the way the sharks managed to get dead in this movie. Pool stick through the head. Chainsawed in half. Single shot from a Beretta 92FS. Thanks, Internet Movie Firearm Database. Single and multiple shotgun blasts, multiple stab wounds, falling from the sky, crashing through a sign on the roof of a building, crashing into electrical wires, hit repeatedly with a bar stool, shooting at an air tank in the shark's mouth a la Jaws, spoiler alert, and eating a chainsaw-wielding hero whole. So A for effort on ways to kill a shark, F plus for execution. So that wraps up Sharknado. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube for our video updates. Leave any comments or suggestions for movies you'd like to see reviewed down below. Follow us on Twitter at Fapcast. Like us on Facebook, and unless shitty movies are devoured whole by a super pissed off shiver of sharks, we'll see you next time. Shark attacks people in the water. Sharks attack people in... God damn it, I can't read. This is terrible. Someday
I could has literate.
Someday I'll proofread these. That's fine right there, it's fine. Someday I'll proofread these things, and then I'll be able to spike good.
Well, good, because third sequel would actually be a fourth movie. So I would say to be the second sequel.
There would actually be a third sequel.
That's true.
In the works.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah.